Good, how are you? It's on the air. Sorry for the delay, anyway, a lot of traffic out there. Let's see, so we'll get the meeting started. And I guess we'll just go around and start with introductions. So I'll start. My name is Rista Malaka. I'm Director of Economic Community Development for the Northwest Hills COG and co-chair of the Naugatuck River Greenway, co-chair of this group.
Hi, Vince Sheford. I'm a member from Naugatuck.
I'm Roger Solway. I'm the Director of Economic Development for Derby.
Judy Mancini, I'm an advisor to Mayor Paul Pernaruski and Waterbury.
Jerry Lukowski, Watertown Public Works.
And Paul Benevich, Watertown Town Engineer.
I'm Chris Roberts. I'm with the Active Transportation Unit at DOT.
Jack Walsh from Derby and I'm co-chair with Rista.
Mark Nielsen with NVCOG.
Aaron Budris with NVCOG.
Ricardo Rodriguez with NBCOG.
Karen Swets with NBCOG.
And I'm Rich Donovan with NVCOG.
And I'm Richard Crowther with NBCOG.
That's all numbered.
Do we have anybody online or is this all just
Yes,
in person?
there is Brian Sorowich. Sorry if I mess up your names.
That's right.
James Culpa, Catherine Ferracci,
Yeah,
Mark Jewell, and then Thomas Doherty with NBCOG.
all right. Welcome, everybody online. So.
Oh, got it.
We'll just jump into some project updates. Waterbury Phase 2.
Great. Hi, everyone. The project is on track. We are still in the process of trying to get someone to do our right-of-way acquisition. The state is not doing it for us this time. They did it for us on the Tiger project, but I guess across the board, they're not handling right-of-way acquisitions for the town. So we've been having a little bit of a problem finding a consultant to actually do it. So I don't know if anybody knows of any right-of-way consultants, but there seems to be only one at this point that we can locate, but we're working with them to get a contract signed with both of our consultants. So other than that, we're on track and proceeding with preliminary design.
So, Jim Coppola, are you here for VHB?
I'm here.
Do you have any suggestions? You must run into this quite often.
I am taking notes and I can look into it for you.
That'd be great.
Great,
Thank you. Thank you. We just let you know if we have any other options, it would be helpful for us.
A quick question. Are you having trouble finding somebody to come up? Because you have to put together a right-of-way acquisition plan.
Right, the plan
That
is coming
federal
first, right, yeah.
Is that the problem you're having, finding somebody to write
Yes,
that?
to do the actual plan at this point, and then, some of those firms do it all, right, once they do the plan, but then those are two separate things that we have to contract for, so, yeah. Do you know of it? I mean.
Well, no, I mean, I did a lot of the research early on
Yeah.
and this whole issue came up and, again, I think you can probably do a fairly simple plan for specifically for this acquisition and this
Yeah.
project. Because if you looked at some of the ones I found, I mean, they're 400 pages long and they go into every conceivable possible acquisition and it's
Yeah.
all legalese because. But I know DOT has one for that was relatively simple. I know it was for I forget now what it was for that I had sent you down
Yeah.
over a copy. But have you also talked to Federal Highway what they are looking for? Did they give you any
Yes.
advice?
So, yeah, we meet with them monthly.
Yeah.
And so they're aware of the issues that we've been having and they have an expectation of what they want produced. So
Yeah.
they're in line with what we're trying to do in this
Okay.
firm, but I guess this one firm is pretty much it. So, if someone can help us, that would be, throw out some names or give us
Yeah.
some suggestions. that
Yeah,
would be
we
great.
don't have any names that
Yeah.
help. I just did some research and, it's
It's tough.
it is.
It's
And
tough.
and unfortunately, it does involve lawyers, so it's a lot of, you have to be pretty precise or,
Exactly.
clear on what it is.
And our manager, one of our project managers is a lawyer, so everything
That's
is,
good.
really,
Yeah,
on track as it should be and to the T, so it just
yeah,
takes time.
it
So
does. Yeah,
we'll
it's
figure it out.
unfortunate, but yeah.
Is it all projects DOT's not doing this for, or just
No,
trail
trails.
projects?
I think it's just
Trail
trails.
project, yeah. Yeah, so
Um,
they say that it's just trail from my understanding of it, it's trail projects that they're not participating in assisting on the right of way phase.
What's the total length of phase 2?
Uh,
2.2?
yeah, I think so,
Or
2.2
2.1
miles, yep. Yeah, it's through some tough terrain and
Yeah.
some really, areas with a lot of factories, that former factories, so everyone knows what
Yeah.
that's
I
like,
know.
so. It's a slog, but we're gonna get through it.
And how's the NEPA environmental assessment coming?
That is done,
Oh,
so
good.
far, NEPA's done, so that's a big hurdle, so we're feeling really good about that.
Yeah.
So we're onward.
Good.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Like I said, we can still keep doing some research on, those kinds of things if you'd like.
That'd be great.
At first we were thinking maybe we could just write it for you, help you guys write it. But then when I looked into all the requirements and details, it was like
It's a lot.
it was beyond our, yeah.
Yeah, but we appreciate it, as always, we appreciate our.
Hi, Kim.
Thank you.
All right, NVCOG raise project. Is that you, Mark?
That's me. That's why I'm still here.
Well, and I'll just say,
So funny.
I don't think we've met since our trail symposium, and I loved your guys' presentation. It was really good on this
Oh, thank
project.
you.
So thank you for coming and
So
doing.
which one was better, me, Rich, or Aaron? Anyway, quick update, Raise is moving along. We're truly trying to fast track it and get it out as quickly as possible. I'm really hoping that we can get the RFQ out for consultant services by the end of November, by the end of this month. We've met with Federal Highway and we're on board and have agreements, not tentative agreements on how to proceed. It's gonna be a little bit of a complicated, thing, because we're gonna be leveraging rec trails money that the towns had been awarded as the non-federal share, but Federal Highway is all good on that, and we have a plan forward. We're working, one of the key unique items of this is what's called tapered match. Typically on a federal project, it's 80-20, 80-20, 80-20 for all progress payments. We're not gonna be doing that in this case because of using rec trails. Waterbury, you have a rec trails thing. We're gonna be spending your rec trails money to design the section that you got the money for. So when we invoice Federal Highway, if we have to, we're gonna be invoicing at, 90%, local and 10% federal. So it's not gonna be a typical 80, it's gonna be varying. And then what that means later in the project, we may be 100% federal request as opposed to, 80-20. So that's one thing, everybody's on board with that, just have to put together the financial plans for that. But the one thing that is almost done is the agreement with Federal Highway. That's now in there, they're reviewing it, and they'll send it up down to headquarters, and hopefully that get executed. But we can start doing the RFQ process ahead of that. We just can't hire a consulting firm, but we're hoping that we can get a team of consultants, one prime, then who will, have other partners that will do certain sections. And again, the key is we have 10 sections in the thing that we're looking at. We're not gonna do like the design for the entire thing before anything else can proceed. We're gonna be doing it as things are ready to go. So the 4 rec trails sections in Waterbury, Naugatuck, Watertown, and Thomaston, they're ready to hit the ground with design. Those are gonna go first, and when they're done, they'll be ready to go for construction if money becomes available. We're not gonna wait for the design for all 16 miles to be done. It's gonna be, we're gonna do it as, same thing with NEPA. We're gonna do environmental assessments based on the sections, and, because some sections might have hardly anything, and just go ahead and you're done, or some other sections may have very complicated environmental mitigation requirements. We're not gonna wait for that to be resolved before we move ahead with another section. So you guys in Waterbury and Watertown who are here, your projects aren't gonna be delayed waiting for us to resolve something that might be in Waterbury as well. So,
Yeah.
we're moving ahead. I just want to remind, I did send out an email last week asking you guys to commit to our
Yeah.
plan where you continue with the agreements with Deep. But then you transfer the money to us or pass through the money to us as we get those sections done. And we'll also be helping you put together the progress reports and invoices that you'll submit to Deep.
Okay,
And we'll keep track of everything. Basically, the only requirement you guys we're gonna have is you'll get the money from Deep, then give it to us. And, but we'll do the financial tracking and,
so
invoice.
you guys are doing the progress reports on that?
We'll do the
Okay,
progress reports, because again, the idea is we'll have one, and I say one consultant, but a team of consultants to
Mhm.
do the entire project.
Right,
But as they come in to us, it doesn't make sense for us to give you that, oh, here's the invoice, you
Yeah.
do. No, we'll put together all that. Aaron's pretty good at we've run rec trails projects before, so he knows what's required, so.
I thought I was just telling you how to do them.
Well, don't you have staff underneath you? You can tell Tom how to do it.
Mike had to do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. Mike, Springle, our finance director, is probably gonna do most of the financial tracking, because that's a big part of it.
Mhm.
But again, the idea is that it'd be easier if we just sort of control everything here. And, at NBCog, and then that way we'll make sure everything gets submitted on time and
Yeah.
all that fine stuff.
So Mark, do you need a reply back to the?
Yes, oh,
email?
yes, yeah.
And that was about 2 to 3 weeks ago, you sent? it?
No, what did I send that? I think it was last Friday. It wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
It was after, we had a meeting with Federal Highway. Because before I sent out RFQs or anything to the towns, I wanted to get a good understanding from Federal Highway, and we're dealing with Tim.
Yeah.
Tim's real good.
He's great, yeah,
Yeah,
he's great.
he's been real good. But we wanted to get a clear understanding and basically, he said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. We just want to make sure, this is what we're doing
Yeah,
before we commit. And we had that meeting last Thursday and,
well, that's
they're on
great too,
board.
because he's the guy, so that gives me a great comfort. I'm
Yeah.
sure you too, so.
Yeah. And so, because this is gonna be a kind of a unique, and it's gonna be a little bit complicated because we're dealing with 4 towns, 16 miles of trail. But, at the end of the day, we'll have full sets of design plans, ready to bid documents, for 17 miles. It's 16.9, so I should be saying 17 of trails, between Naugatuck and Thomaston.
And what's the 4 towns again? Watertown, Waterbury, Thomaston, and what's the?
Naugatuck. It's from Greenfield, which is in the south end of Naugatuck, all the way up to East Main Street, technically Elm Street and Thomaston, right near their downtown. And that unlocks, we have lots of money ready for a section, Watertown. We have lots of money sort of set aside for a section in Naugatuck and 2 sections in, Thomaston, as well as the transportation alternatives money that Thomaston has. So it will not unlock, possibly construction for 5 sections.
Great.
So, but I was gonna send a reminder email to you guys, but since you're here, because I need just that,
Okay.
make sure that I think Mark, because he was at the meeting we attended, he's on board, but you to get the mayor,
Yeah.
On board. I think Pete Hess is on board, and we've been working with Ed Moan up in Thompson, so I think we're in a good place. It's just, I gotta get,
A lot of pieces.
a lot of
Yeah.
pieces.
And plus, a few months ago, you came to town council
Yeah.
to help us out with briefing the whole plan. Thank you.
And remind
problem.
me, Mark, how much was that award?
5,699,000 and change.
You have to know the change too.
Yes, well. I forget what.
5.7.
I
I got it.
That's a rounding.
5.7.
I kick myself every time I have to write that number down, because like, why didn't I just round it up to 5.3?
You can't give round numbers.
The more complicated you get it,
Yeah,
the better you score, right?
But the total-
Makes sense, is why we won the award.
yeah. But the total project is 7.2 million, you know, including the rec trails dollars, so and we're hopeful, I might, of course, the concern we have with this is, you know, costs have just escalated so much over the last few years. But we feel that we are really confident and very conservative in our estimate for what we're gonna need, and we're hoping this will come in lower than what we have budgeted, so that would be nice. Yeah. So anyway, but that's a little bit longer update of what that project is, but
That's
but
great.
anyhow, the idea is I want to have a consultant on board beginning of the year.
Great. All right, we'll move on now, I guess. Didn't seem like there's any more questions on that. Kinney Town Trail.
So speaking of consultants, so we received a Rec Trails grant last round for a section of trail on the Kinneytown property. And so NBCOG right now is working on a project to remove Kinneytown Dam and restore the river. And this will basically help us with that restoration, also design the trail at the same time. So we thought it made a lot of sense to sort of wrap it into the overall dam removal engineering. So we added it to the scope of that project. We bidded it. We had 2 firms come back, and we're negotiating now with one of them. So the idea is to basically wrap it all together. So we're going to be using, we're going to be doing a lot of public outreach as part of that. So there's no reason to do it twice. So we're hoping to have the consultant on by the end of the year, and really going full steam at the beginning of next year.
Which side of the river will the trail be on there?
So I have like a vision, but both consultants came in our interviews and talked about, basically other ideas that could work as well. So I think that's the first step, is to try to figure that out. My vision was to stay on the east side of the river and follow the canal. So, go along the top, the crest of the dam, and then the canal, and use the rail bridge to get under to the west side of the river. And then from there, it really depends on where the river channel is going to end up once the dam is removed. So all that work still has to, the bathymetry and all of the mapping and everything still has to get done. So I think we'll know a lot more once that's done.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out where the connection will be with the Ansonian.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that a little bit with the city. So it would connect to the Ansonia Copper and Brass site, which is, another big redevelopment project down the line. So, I think starting discussions early about that property and what's going to end up there, and how we can route a trail through and into downtown, I think is going to be important.
Yeah, because then that's the kicker too, because Ansonia does have a TA award, or pending TA award, to build the section, on the west side of the
Right.
river.
By
Yeah.
North Field.
To
Yeah.
Nolan Field, right?
So we'll see, like Aaron said, that's part of the coordination that we're gonna have to continue to do.
And that is part of the scope of this project, is looking, at least that conceptually, how you're gonna get into downtown, and then how you're gonna get into downtown Seymour as well.
Mine's big. No, I had a call from Sheila and I forgot, I think I haven't responded to her, so I gotta.
All right, do we have other projects that we want to talk about that are going on along the trail? Anybody online that wants to provide an update?
We do have a project in Watertown, for the Steelbrook Trail. We're at 65% design. We did our review comments with the help of the DOT, and we'll be proceeding to the next phase for that design.
Great.
Eventually they'll hook up to Naugatuck, hopefully. and that's
Correct.
the ways down
One decade or another.
there. Which decade?
Well, it's not a century.
It'll be in this century.
With some confidence, you can say that, right?
And that was a TA funded project.
Yeah.
Great. And I know Harrington, we've been working with Harrington to continue their routing and design project that was funded through Rec Trails too. So hopefully I can have a better update in a couple of months on that for you. All right, we'll get into some funding opportunities that are out there. DOT microgrant, do you want to talk about some of DOT funding projects?
Sure. Some of you might have seen, I know Anna from my unit just sent out the email for round 4 for micro grant funding. So we have $75,000 left for this year's funding. So to keep it fair for all the cogs, we're gonna limit it to 1 application for each cog this round, and then we're gonna roll over the rest of the money to the next rounds to keep it going next, and we have funding for next year too as well. So stay tuned.
And those are $45,000,
$5,000,
right?
5,000 each.
Have you obviously given money out already?
Yep.
Have anybody completed anything, or, have they actually spent the money yet, or?
Oh, yeah, it's for, small stuff like
Small, yeah.
bike helmets and
Yeah.
things like that, so I know, there's been a lot of events in different regions, mostly bikes and helmets is probably like 50% of the items
Mhm.
that are being purchased with the money. Things like bike rodeos and things like that, they give them out to the kids and things of that nature. But a lot of the money has been spent.
That's great. I know there was, I think it was the town of Warren, did a back to school bike event. They all met and they all rode their bikes to school. It was kind of cute and there's a bunch of photos, so. Are there any other DOT funding opportunities that are coming down the road that we might need to know about or be on the lookout for?
Off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure. I think CCGP might be coming out soon, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the
Yeah.
spot, just if you knew.
Yeah. But I believe they might be going for another round.
Great. Community Investment Fund, we're getting close to the end of those rounds, right? There's only
I'm
1 or 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know, I just saw this one open not that long ago, round 6. And we've talked in the past about how some towns have used this for trail projects. I think it has to be sort of more economic development focused projects, but I don't know, it's worth looking into, if especially in downtown trail projects.
Yeah, so what I know about the Community Investment Fund is it's very competitive and you need a lot of legislative support. Even though the money is set aside, it's kind of treated as similar to bonding money in some regards. So projects that have gotten funded do have a lot of that legislative support and are real economic development drivers for the towns that have gotten them, because they're for distressed communities. So they're meant to help with that economic growth. So but I think trails are eligible and do fit in with that, and this is either the last or one of the last rounds, I believe, of the original money that was out there. All right, other funding.
I'm a little hesitant to bring it up, but I figured might as well. The NOFO for the next round of raise was released just 2 days ago or the other day or whatever. And for you guys to remember, RAISE is a very competitive discretionary program from USDOT. The nice thing is it can provide a lot of money for a project that it's going to be hard to get that money together. One of the thoughts we've been kicking around at the COG is, since we're doing the design, whether it would make sense to put in a raise grant for some construction of those trails in anticipation of completing design in a couple of years. Because the raise money, if we were to get it, this round probably wouldn't be available until probably early 26. And we'll have some of the design stuff already done by then. Plus, raise gives you about, I think, what, 30 months or 30 months, I think, to actually obligate. So we, we still would have some time to complete the design. But anyhow, raise did get released. If anybody in any of the towns may be interested in applying, let us know. We'll give you a hand, or whether there is some interest in maybe doing, again, a regional type of approach for some of the stuff that we're designing currently. Just keep in mind, it's a 20% non-federal share. So it raise sounds great. Oh, we got, $5 million, but that also means you got to put in $1 million of non-federal. I'm not sure if rec trails from the state helps out, because again, DEEP, is, they're willing to see their rec trails leverage federal dollars because you can get a lot more done. So, but anyhow, just something to keep up. It just got released, so deadline is
January 30th.
January 30th. So we have a couple of months to sort of think about. Applications aren't the easiest thing to put together. But Rich is getting good at it. No.
This is Mark's admission that he's not ready to retire.
Yeah.
Could be another
That's
good
why I was
Mark.
reluctant to bring it up. But just give it some thought. We're not really proposing anything right now, but just something to think about. Because it is a good opportunity. I think this is the last round under the bipartisan infrastructure law. And yeah, there's no guarantee they will continue after this round. So I think this is the 5th year. Yeah, I think it's the 5th round. So, and that was all that was authorized in that bill. So anyway, it might be a good opportunity. It might be one of the last remaining opportunities to go forward. So like I said, COG's always here to give some advice and help out with some, as may need. So
Great.
I think we should probably send out a email blitz to the rest of the NRG steering committee.
Resurrect the memo we sent last time.
Yeah.
Thank you. While we're talking about funding, I know there's. Did you want?
People will see that rec trails is not up here right now. Just so everyone knows, there is a delay as opposed to the last 2 years where our RFP was released in December. It's gonna be a bit later in 2025, so the funding has not been requested to be released from the bond commission. We do have $10 million allocated, so essentially it has to go to the bond commission to get released. Once it's released, then we release the RFP and open around. We're still working through our contracting, and we have about, I think it's at this time, we have about 150 projects when you add it up from the previous rec trail grant rounds. And what's happening right now too is, luckily, we've now extended grant rounds to 3 years, but the previous grant round from 2021 was a 2-year grant. And so it was a lot of the contracting was 2022. So we're hitting the need for amendment. So those are all piling up on our programmatic and legal team. So yes, we're getting that all sorted out before we release the new RFP, as well as looking at needs for staffing increases within the programs. We're getting there.
Yeah. And I'll just, when we were on our Connecticut Greenways meeting yesterday, Kim was kind of explaining this, and the applications in the rounds went from 15 to 45. And without any additional staffing at DEEP or any additional resources. So it's just, a lot more, it's a little bit of capacity building to get to that point, but we're still planning on having another round, just
I
not,
tried to look ahead last year, so luckily I have all the information put together that we need to grow the program, but, we just need our leadership to respond to that, but.
right, so. Any other funding conversation? Okay. Event and a public outreach. So the Connecticut Trail Symposium was October 4th. It was at Manchester Community College. I thought, maybe I'm a little biased, but I do think it was a great event. We had some great presentation. We had a lot of great feedback. I think people enjoyed the tabling events. I know Kim sent out a survey to get some feedback, and we're going to be meeting in December to kind of regroup and start already planning for next year. I don't know if Kim, if you wanted to give any more of an update, and I would love to hear from anybody else who attended, to what your thoughts were on it, but.
Yeah, and I know we had great response for the NVCog presentation as well. So for everyone who, put forward presentations, I'm gonna try to get that disseminated and the information back out to you. Great feedback. I think, what we acknowledged as well is the need to kind of be a little, try to increase our timing so that we have things planned out and information released a bit earlier. We get a little constrained as we see how other groups are doing it. I also went up to Mass Trails to see how they put forward their event. It's huge, but they also have a staff. I found out Massachusetts has a staff of 10 people. So they've increased from 2.5 to 10 people within their trails program. But it was a great opportunity to really see how they ran things. And I am working towards, I've been given the approval to get at least a seasonal staff, who I think it's a great opportunity for someone who is working for a subset of time for really networking and potential job opportunity growth. So we're gonna have someone that's hired on that's really focused on this as a task and supporting the Greenways Council in doing so. We're also looking at the Greenways Council, Rista, I think we've been talking a lot about it, but we're looking at the potential for the Greenways Council to actually hire on support for expanding this. And we're talking to DOT about the requirements of an annual meeting from the bike and pedestrian realm. So maybe expanding it a little broader from the trails sense and doing it along with DOT. So a lot of kind of thoughts on where this can go. So it's definitely going to continue, and anyone who's interested in helping with it is more than welcome to jump in on the committee for planning. You don't have to be appointed member of a council if you want to jump in.
And it's really a great group to work with. Everybody is so friendly and, on time, and does a lot of great things. So it's a good group. So did anybody else go and have other feedback, or?
Oh, we had a good time. It's good round table. The afternoon sessions are good. So.
It's really good.
Yeah, I like the guy from Mass, about the Norwoodic Trail,
Mhm.
or Naugatuck, whatever.
He
He was very interesting. And well, I know that trail because I've walked it quite a bit, and I keep thinking it's a perfect example of what we can do with the Naugatuck, because it runs along a rail line and there's not a problem. It's, very well used, and, heads into Northampton, and it's perfect. But yeah, his presentation or his discussion was really good, how they were able to, take advantage of the rail lines to, create the Mass Central Trail.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much background he gave, but I guess he worked for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
railroad.
yeah,
So he got an award up in Massachusetts. I had no idea that he was kind of the godfather of the rail trail up in Massachusetts. So he's a superhero up there, and it's funny when folks come from other states, you just don't really realize the high level role they play.
Yeah, no, he did mention that he, had worked in, so he knew how to do this, you could, sometimes an outsider comes in, the railroad shit, trying to, oh yeah, can't do that. And he was like, no, I've, worked there, I know this, it's, you can't, yeah, you can't, tell me something that isn't true, so.
What's the name of the trail?
Norwutic, Norwutuck.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
And essentially, it'll end up being from the Berkshires all the way to Boston.
Yeah.
Wow.
When it's completed, it's gonna be pretty substantial.
But the current section runs from Northampton into Belchertown, which is where my son lives. That's why I go to there. And it's a real nice trail, and it's very few road crossings. And where they do have some rail crossings, they have what, hawk systems are in place.
How long
Fun.
is it, Mark?
That section's about 12 miles.
Oh, wow.
And they reused an old rail bridge over the Connecticut River, so you can cross over the
Wow.
river from Hadley into Northampton. And the other nice thing the Mass is doing is Route 9 through there is a main box store commercial area, mall. And they redid Route 9 and they're adding side paths, 10-foot side paths on each side for bicyclists and walking. Very, very, very proactive for bicycling. And obviously it connects to a trail that goes into UMass and in Amherst. So, again, it's a lot of stuff going on. You got, 5 universities and 2 small cities and, but it's a really nice trail. And they just redid it too. It was originally built with 8-foot lanes. Now it's 10 or 10-foot wide. So, but yeah, it's a real nice trail. But yeah, he gave me some ideas.
It looks like the International Trail Summit is coming up. April
Yep.
15th to 17th.
Yeah, I just saw the registration was live. I've gone the last 3 or 4 times. I know Kim was there last year, Rista was there the year before,
Yeah,
every
we're in
other year.
Springfield, yeah.
It's a really, really fun, good conference. A lot of municipal leaders go and talk about trail projects in their communities and the impacts they've had. There's a lot of like trail building stuff too, but there's also a lot that is relevant to this group. So I'm gonna try to go again if it gets approved.
You got to me.
It's in Wisconsin. I've never been to Wisconsin, so check that one off. But certainly consider it if all of you are looking for a conference to attend.
Sure.
I already been to enough.
Cheddar IPA.
Yeah, all right. Cheddar and an IPA. How's that?
Yeah.
All right, so any other business that we want to talk about? We'll turn it over to Derby, to their spotlight, who is,
So I could give sort of an overview. I think we've been talking about this for about a year, that there's a ton of projects going on in Derby. A lot of them are wrapping up right now. And a lot of them are either related to or will serve the Greenway or be served by the Greenway in downtown. So I put the ones we've been involved in on this map. There's probably more that maybe the city can talk to, but the Derby Shelton Bridge is on the map, which there was a ribbon cutting yesterday for a rehab of the bridge that really came out really nicely and includes pedestrian features to connect the two towns. B is the Derby Route 34, which is ongoing. You probably saw it on the way in. We worked on developing a fishing pier at O'Sullivan's Island, C. And then D, the Derby Shelton train station, which is right next door, is being renovated. And then Ricardo's been doing work on brownfields projects that are 2 of them are well, one's complete, one's wrapping up, and one is sort of just starting. So we've got a few slides to sort of talk about these and Jack and Roger, if you want to, you know, add things to, or, you know, please feel free. So I'll hand it over to
Oh, Derby Shelton Bridge is first.
Derby Shelton Bridge.
Me,
Well, the both of us, I
Yeah.
guess.
anyway, this project, many years in the making. It started with a study that the Derby Shelton Rotary Club had, commissioned that really looked at, what can you do with this kind of old ugly bridge that is not very attractive and, but yet connects two downtowns. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, but I mean, the intent of that study was, let's make it a signature bridge to really attract people and make it a sort of focal
Gateway.
point. Yeah, gateway
Gateway.
and focal point.
And
the
bridge was very wide. There was a lot of space to work with, which was wonderful.
Yeah, and we at NBCOG, we were able to, we got a TOD grant through OPM that we were then able to sort of take the work that the Rotary had done and turn it into a little bit more expansive study that looked at how, you know, the connection between the train station and downtown Shelton. So many years in the making. But, you know, we had some key, you know, we did the TOD study that sort of came up with a kind of a high level concept of taking this wide structure and turning it into a more of a place for people. We shifted the lanes to the north side of the bridge so that we could have a wider pedestrian path on the south side. And we were able to put in, you know, a bi-directional cycle track. We also got a $2 million bond from the commission, from the state, that helped jumpstart the design and some of the, you know, implementation of that. And then, you know, the key was, you know, we got DOT to actually buy into it and allocate federal dollars to do the full rehab.
Because DOT owns the bridge.
DOT, yeah, and our original estimate for the rehab was like roughly about $2 million. And when we got into design, it was just that cost got blown up, mainly because of utility. You may not see it, but there's a ton of utility stuff in that bridge. So that had all be replaced and relocated and upgraded. There was an old gas line that was on the outside, on the, you know, on the fascia of the bridge. You know, we wanted to get rid of, so again, it was all, so go to the next one. Yeah, so this is what it sort of looks like now. You know, again, you know, it's funny, the original bridge had 2 lanes. We actually put 3 lanes in. But yet we narrowed the lanes and widened the bike and pedestrian connection. So that just demonstrates how wide this bridge was, and it was really, I mean, it was built to handle, you know, tanks and heavy equipment because of, it was built, you know, at the end of the First World War. You know, they had to build it to be able to carry, you know, very heavy equipment.
They replaced an iron bridge that wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
So it was,
8 wasn't there yet.
what?
And Route 8 wasn't there yet.
No. But it was oversized because of the needs at the
Military,
time. Yeah. And,
And it was also interesting to found out yesterday, at the dedication, that the original Iron Bridge was the first state-funded bridge in the state of Connecticut. That was 1891. I didn't know that.
Was the governor from Shelton or Derby?
Not back then.
so, and again, this is what we were able to do, through, you know, a lot of coordination with the state and NBCOG. The railing that's on top of the parapet wall there, you know, is Karen's doing. You know, she really insisted on matching that with what the sort of design over at Veterans Memorial Park in Shelton was. You know, we made sure that, you know, bike and ped needs were really, you know, considered. We had a lot of historic preservation coordination, because SHPO wanted the new parapet walls to sort of match what was there, which we were able to do. So it was really kind of a, kind of a win-win. Oh, and then the real key is over here on the right photo next to the Primrose Development. That used to be a road that would connect Canal Street up to the bridge. That was closed to vehicle traffic, and we were turning it into an extension of a bike ped path. So, and that it sort of makes a connection to the Shelton River Walk. So.
And you can see at the top on the right picture, that's the Derby Greenway. You see the cement wall there. The Derby Greenway is right above that, and it connects to what in Shelton, they call it the Shelton River Walk. Which they're constantly extending a little bit. So even though it's not really part of the Naugatuck River Greenway, it's an important connection, and now it links Fairfield County to the Naugatuck River Greenway as well.
And the last thing we were gonna try to do, I shouldn't say try, we will do, technically, right at the bridge, we can sort of think of that as the beginning of the Naugatuck River Greenway or the end. But make that a focal point, and we've talked to DOT on the Route 34 project to ensure we get a kiosk put in place that will provide information and identify this as the starting point and all that. And we're keeping it on top, or Karen's keeping on top of that, because right now, if you go over there where the two projects meet, it's like a no man's land. They have to-
But there is a park there that,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the city's been dragging their feet because,
Yeah.
We talked last year, the park was gonna incorporate the transportation, industrial, there are two gigantic one's a gigantic water wheel and one's probably should throw away the smaller water wheel, but there were water wheels that powered the industry there. And those were, taken out of the last building torn down on Main Street. And they are standing there. DOT put them back in place last year, but the park is an issue. A sore point with me because Derby had a cobblestone street. And I want the cobblestones put as part of that park, and the city in their infinite wisdom has said cobblestones are not safe. So they don't want to do it. So I'm a little bit upset about that.
Yeah.
Because there is they did mark out the park, which would be the connection, you say, and I think it would be really a beautiful place. But we'll see what happens.
But that's something we're working on, to try to make that connection seamless. So we'll see.
Yeah, it
The
is a
bridge
little-
is also gonna have lighting on the arches, so at nighttime it'll be lit up and the two towns will be able to control the colors. For like Valentine's Day, if they wanna make it red or, whatever they wanna do, so,
Great.
yeah.
It's like public art almost in a way, right?
Yeah, again, the intent was just to make this, very signature. We got rid of the old ugly Cobra lights that, DOT likes to use on all their, highways and bridges. With, a more of a period style, lighting LED that shines. It's dark side compliant.
Full
right?
cutoff, yeah.
So, it's gonna give a whole different feel for that area once it,
And the flow of traffic is so much better already.
Yeah.
So much better. The interesting thing is people look at it and think the bridge has been made wider. It's not. It's the exact same width as it was.
We just
It's like an optical illusion, but people do think it's a wide bridge.
That's
It's not.
Before,
Yeah, because they had like, I think the sidewalks were 8-10 feet, and then there's like 8-foot shoulders on either side and 12-foot length, or 12-13 feet, right? The lengths were even wide.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you didn't need all that space to, it's not like, you don't want them to speed across there anyhow, so yeah, just let's narrow things up. There's planters along between the cycle track and the lanes that will eventually get planted with something. And we're thinking, probably not until the spring, given the time of year, but that should be really, really nice. And I think the parapet wall, they did a real nice job on that.
Great job. There's a YouTube video from the dedication yesterday as well as on Facebook and several other videos with flybys, and so you can see from all kinds of different angles. So if you go out to Facebook and YouTube, you'll find it.
move on to Route 34.
I guess I gotta stand up because nobody here otherwise. Oh, God. Yeah, so anybody who's driven through Derby in the last.
There are
few
two
years-
slides here. I think, so. Yeah, one for the purpose of engagement interactions.
First of all, because I don't think everyone knows me, I'm a professional engineer. I've been with the COG for about 9 years. I have experience with DOT. I work for DOT. I work for a municipality. I work for 2 different contractors, mostly on road jobs. So, this is how I ended up, for the COG managing the Route 34 and the bridge project. And, the Route 34 widening has been in the planning stage for at least 15 years, like 2009, and Mark's gotta help me out because it was before my time.
Yeah,
But
that's when it was-
Let's say at least 15 years,
yeah.
and I think. So Loops de Carlindale, the engineering firm, did a study of Route 8 at one
In
time,
2002.
how to improve. Not only Route 8, but like the roads that come off of Route 8, right? And this was one of the recommendations it used to be 1 lane in each direction, to provide 2 lanes, because it's Route 34, you get a lot of traffic, going to the all points going west. And then right on the other side of 34, you have, Route 8, so it was always very heavily congested. And I don't know who originally came up with the idea, but probably Rick Dunn thought it would be best if the COG were more involved in the design of this, because this is Derby's downtown. And so and I'm looking at Mark because I don't exactly know the history, so I'm guessing a little bit, but he must have approached DOT and said, well, we want to hire the engineer to do the design so that we can work with the city of Derby and have, their interests, be the priority, where if DOT came to design it, they're just gonna do what they think is best. So that's how we got involved, and we hired Loops again because they were the ones that did the study. And,
Yeah, because the big concern is we didn't want to have a 4-lane superhighway going through the downtown area.
right,
So by the COG being sort of responsible for the design and concepts, we did add in a number of it was before complete streets was a term, but a lot of those kinds of elements, the raised median to sort of slow traffic down, the bump outs at a couple locations, the defined parking spaces so that it gives a feel of narrower travel lanes. The signals are now interconnected, and they're connected to the system heading, on 34 toward New Haven. So the traffic will flow a lot more efficiently, but it's a lot of the pedestrian elements that we were really concerned about. We did at one point propose a bidirectional cycle track on the south side of Main Street to run from the Derby Shelf Bridge directly to the train station, but that was eliminated at one point for on-street parking instead. But we do have concepts to. No. So we want to, provide a cycle track through the south side development area eventually, so.
And I just want to point out, again, looking at that picture, all the buildings on the south side of Main Street were torn down. Okay,
right.
that whole side had buildings dating back to the Civil War. Okay, they're all gone. Not one building in that entire stretch is there. And the Greenway, again, would be at the very bottom of that picture. It was behind those buildings. Those buildings were there when the Greenway first opened. They're all gone now.
Were the structures removed for this project?
No, they were.
The state
Just falling
fire,
apart.
state fire marshal had a demolition order because they were collapsing.
Well, some of them were removed.
Well,
for the project.
okay, yes, there were 5.
Yeah, right at the very.
Yeah.
By
and
Route
we
8,
had to
there were-
work with SHPO,
Yeah,
State Historic Preservation.
But,
Office,
the
and they had
ones-
to hire an architect to
Yeah.
document the buildings because they were over 100 years old and part of historic downtown Derby, and so that was a big process. And
Same thing happened in a lot of downtowns after World War II, you know, as the industry left and shopping malls opened. Downtowns didn't have parking. So people went elsewhere. And Roger is heavily involved with this now because he's the economic development director and I can tell you the things that they hope will go in there. It's really a critical piece for the future development of Derby. That's a large part of the tax base that was wiped out when all those buildings were gone, and hopefully they can rebuild it.
So that looks pretty steep there, is it?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's 41. Yeah, but there's an agreement with the state that will allow buildings to be placed back into that slope area. Now,
all this area here is where the city is hoping to.
the big condition is that there's some kind of support retaining wall needs to be built as part of those buildings to hold the road. Because, you know, right now that slope area is holding up Main Street. So you can't just sort of dig in, and so when any buildings do get put in place, they have to have their foundations to be structurally strong enough to hold the road. But there is that, you know, they do have the permission to do that. Because a lot of times when DOT does a project, they don't want any encroachment onto the slope rates, but in this case, that's already in place.
Just a quick note, the project does include reconstructing Elizabeth and Minerva and turning those into one-way. I think it's one-way, I always forget.
Yeah, that
One
way,
way up
Minerva.
and then down Elizabeth, so those are all getting a facelift. The amount of utilities here, just like on the bridge, was like, it was half of this
Yeah.
is like a $20 million construction project, probably half of that is all the utility work and things that had to be worked around just to, you know, make that happen.
Yeah, and our big fear was because we were doing the bridge at the same time as 34, we had to make sure there was coordination. Our worst fear was utilities from 34 were gonna be here and the bridge were here and they were gonna be off.
Right.
So we made sure that everything was coordinated so they would, one project or the other would take, you know, responsibility for, you know, making that turn.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you guys have like flooding problems or stormwater problems with that impervious surface right there all running down to the slope?
Well, to address that, we don't technically have flooding problems because that area is protected by the flood walls. But the additional storm runoff was a concern. So to address some of that, the parking lanes on street are all porous pavers.
I know, that was Karen's idea, right?
Well.
Well, her idea was the
So
parking
because
lot.
I know you're from Torrington, which I'm from Torrington. And in Torrington, and this is going back, what, 7-8 years at least. Torrington put in a paver parking lot. They got a grant. And it was over by the police station and I noticed it and I'm like, oh, this is really nice. And this is a parking area that was all kind of always part of the design since I've been on board anyway. And at first everything was just gonna be paved.
Yeah, asphalt.
You know, the whole thing was gonna be black, you know. And so I suggested to DeCarlo and Dahl that they consider a pavers parking lot like the one in Torrington, and he went up and looked at it. And I even got the information, the design information from somebody. And so DeCarlo and Dahl did, you know, design the parking lot with pavers. And then they took it a step further, which had to do with the MS4, you know, regulations. Because there was gonna be so much pavement, they, as Mark said, they made the, well, it wasn't easy because DOT had to agree, which, you know, that's not easy, but they proposed to make the parking lanes with the pavers as well as the parking lot. And then even there's a buffer between the, curving and the sidewalk, and that's all the pavers, so you guys are gonna see that if you go out for the walk. So it really kind of just, evolved from there, but, that helps, gonna be helping a lot. with
Yeah,
the-
and the median
storm.
was originally gonna be more of a swale. And, but,
Yeah, there's the
that
parking
was,
lot up top, and then, this is a, parallel parking, on-street parking on both sides of the road, and then this is the buffer between the, sidewalk and the curb.
but again, I think this, the photo on the bottom there, I think really shows how it changes sort of the aesthetics of Main Street. By having, instead of just being, massive asphalt, we break it up with some, color and, plantings and things like that. And, having the sidewalks all redone or, it looks a lot better than it had been. And, hopefully that will spur, the development.
So just quickly, I think we kind of covered a lot of it, but, and now there are 2 lanes in each direction. There's also turning lanes that didn't exist, or maybe they were shorter. All of the, traffic signals are being replaced and interconnected. You have the raised median, so now, and the bump out, so when a pedestrian needs to cross, they're gonna have a shorter distance and they'll be protected in the median, because obviously it's not easy to cross 4+ lanes of traffic with a turning lane and stuff.
And one of the things we did get in is, if, we'll probably notice that, behind Home Depot right over here, there is a 10-foot wide, trail section. Again, was put in place for the future connection to, a bike path to the south end, area. And also trying to make, a better connection into the station area itself. So, right now it's just sitting there, but hopefully it will have connections in not too distant future.
Well, and Roger's been made aware, but in the years of planning and design that went into this, the city did agree to, when they, whatever development comes through here, to maintain or create, I guess, at this point, a trail that's gonna come, obviously, the trail here is right here now, but also to bring one through that development and then pop out, because this is where the little piece of trail on the backside of Home Depot exists, and then to the train station. So you would have that sort of seamless connection between Shelton, come across the bridge, hit the trail on this side, pop over, and then cross Home Depot, and then you're at the train station.
Yeah,
which
because for those
is
who
the goal.
aren't familiar with the area, there is not a connection between the Derby Greenway and the Derby Shelton train station. Unfortunately, most people make a connection from the train station to the Greenway by crossing the railroad tracks, which is not the best thing. So the idea is we'll try to make that eventually.
And the state has been pushing for transit-oriented development. And this is a perfect example of an area that's got that, with the 2 rivers, with Route 8 running north and south, 34 east and west, train station, bus station, all in one location. So it fits the master plan of the state of Connecticut as well.
And right now Derby has that, apartment building.
Probably
Yes,
point
it's,
right there, right there.
Right there, right?
Yep.
Should be opening soon.
You saw it when you came in.
When is that, gonna be open for business?
He's already taking reservations, so he's doing some inside work. Most of the exterior is completed. Hopefully early spring. Certificate of occupancy.
And there's another bigger apartment house, well, about the same size apartment house that's in that, if you go back. If you look to the right-hand side of the picture and you go up, you see a kind of a big structure. That's, you see the village.
You're getting ahead of ourselves.
Oh, okay. Well, I was on there before, I saw it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it in the other picture, so I just point out that's already open, and 60% sold?
Yep.
In the space of a couple of
The
months.
first month.
We should
Yeah.
move on to the fishing pier. Is that me too?
Yeah, that's you too.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can, you start it.
Well, I mean, I came in at the tail end, so I don't have too much of the background, but, NB cog, how many years, 8, 9 years
So-
ago?
So back in,
Okay,
that project started in, the project started around, 2012, when my predecessor, Arthur Bogan, secured a EPA assessment grant. So we started, assessing there, while they were doing the testing, a couple issues showed up, so that led, NVCOG to secure some DECD funding. They received $200,000 for the proper, assessment of the entire island.
So I
Once
guess
we got that,
the money, came because GE polluted the river or something, some of the money.
yeah,
and-
so once we got that,
Up in Massachusetts.
once we assessed the island, we knew what was in the soil. That led what exactly, what Karen exactly said, GE, polluted the river
Yeah,
with the
right.
release of some PCB,
Right, so
so.
then they had to pay as what, I don't know, restitution or whatever. they call it.
Exactly, so they secured a loan, $325,000 loan to be able to build a fishing pier. The project got stalled a little bit because the former, presidential office, believed the funding was there, so once that, those issues were cleared up, the project was able to commence somewhere around 2020. As you guys all know, in 2020, we were hit with COVID, so that stalled it a little bit further. Yeah, it stalled it a little bit further, but during that time, we were able to secure HRB to do the preliminary design plans, and that's where Karen started picking it up. And guided us through the whole, public engagement session, getting the public's input, which luckily everyone liked the idea from the beginning. Through those designs, we were able to get some fish cutting stations on the pier as well. So once we finally had a good design for the pier, it was time to throw the project out to bid. Sadly, the project came in higher than what we anticipated. So we needed to secure additional funding to actually get the project completed, and that's where Aaron was able to speak with the sports fishing department at Deep and secure another $240,000 to complete the project, which opened up in July 2023. So this is a good example of different funding sources coming together and completing a project, because there was a lot of road bumps with this one, but as far as I know right now, everyone from the city enjoys it. I've passed a couple of times and you see people fishing on the pier all the time.
Well,
And
evidently, it's
actually,
like a really good fishing spot
It is a
because
good
of the depth of the water, and you have it's the confluence of the Housatonic and the Naugatuck, and the fish like that. I don't know about fishing, but I mean, everybody, since I've been involved in this, I mean, I talk to people who don't even live in the area, and they're like, oh yeah, I go fishing there because it attracts people who fish because of, it's like the conditions are great for fishing.
absolutely. And one last thing on this one is it's one of the only fishing piers on the Housatonic that's ADA compliant. So it's really, really cool.
And it's right off the Greenway.
Mhm.
It's right,
Right off
right
the
along
Greenway.
with.
I think there's a little business that opened there that rents kayaks.
Say-
Yeah,
They do kayaking there.
yeah.
Is there parking there too for?
There
is parking there.
Yeah, under the, what's that bridge there? I was forgetting.
The routing.
Commodore Hall Bridge.
Commodore Hall Bridge, yeah. underneath the
Should
bridge.
point out that Old Sullivan's Island is not an island. Used to be, it's not an island anymore. It was filled in when they were building the Commodore Hall Bridge. And also that stretch of land to the side was the subject of a $4 million brownfield cleanup years ago. So
Yeah, they used to do the fire
it
training.
was fire training school, but even
Yeah,
before
all
that,
that
there was
nasty
a
stuff.
lot of industrial waste dumped there down through the years illegally.
So to the point of transit-oriented development in the area, The Derby Shelton train station, along with all of the other train stations up and down the Waterbury line, are under design for really significant upgrades. I'm sure you've all seen news about the state having ordered new equipment for the branch lines for the non-electrified rail lines in the state. And so one of the elements with that is that we need to have high-level platforms. And so that will, in addition to serving the new equipment, it'll make for faster and easier boarding. It'll make all of the stations along the Waterbury line ADA compliant. And so in Derby, in addition to getting a new high-level platform, which you'll see, does this have a laser on it?
It does, but it doesn't show up on the screen.
Okay, so in addition to a new platform, which is down here, immediately next to, like right behind this wall, the historic train station building itself is going to be renovated and restored to use as a train station. And so, it'll be a kind of a central passenger waiting area, with some kind of a small vendor space. And then there's going to be space for bus and train operators to have some break room space. But it'll be a great opportunity for passengers to both have a place to wait and enjoy while they're waiting for their train, but also to really access the historic nature of that building. And so the department is doing a really careful job with maintenance and restoration of the historic elements of that building. A similar project at the other end in Waterbury will do the same in a small section of what used to be the Waterbury Union Station. The one other element to this, like Jack said, right, this isn't just not just trains, but it is also a meeting point for several bus systems in the state. And so there's going to be new upgraded bus bays that include the opportunity for charging electric buses while they wait. And help to really solidify this as a multimodal transportation hub. While there isn't a direct connection to the Greenway, the station plan itself will include a cycle track that connects to that section on Route 34 behind Home Depot. So hopefully as the Route 34 project and the Main Street South projects come together, we'll be able to make that a safer, more real connection.
So going back to development, as Aaron mentioned earlier, completion of the Greenway, it loves, economic development loves those areas. So here's one of the first examples of the complete project for the city of Derby. This one started back in 2016 with some EPA assessment funding. With this one, one of the main issues that we had was groundwater was really, really deep, and we needed that groundwater data to, prove that the site was in better conditions than what it was stated before. So in total, somewhere close to $100,000 worth of assessment work. But that assessment work was able to minimize the cost of remediation moving forward. We were able to, NRG was able to sub-grant the city $290,000 for our LEP oversight. And the Connecticut Brownfields Land Bank, Inc., a sidearm of the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments, was able to secure $650,000 for the actual remediation. I'm happy to announce that we actually came in under budget with those $650,000, only allocating somewhere close to $370,000. So the project came in significantly under budget. Right now, the developer, was able to convert the former auto body into 90+ mixed rate apartments, with parking on ground level, and then across the street, additional parking for the guests. So in total, we have somewhere close to $1 million of public funds invested by the state and federal governments, but yielding somewhere close to 18 million in private funds. So that's an 18-to-1 leverage. Really, really good. Next. Another project that NRG has assisted is 90 Main Street. The whole area over there is considered as Derby Main Street South. and within that area, we received $200,000 from DECD to assess the project. For this one, we assisted the developer in a phase phase one, a phase two, and a HBMA, hazardous building materials analysis of the former building. Right now, as you can see, the site is being converted into residential apartments. I believe they're all market rate, if I'm not mistaken. Is right,
No, 25% are
25%.
below.
Nice. That's really good. Next slide. And then right now, what we're working on is within Derby Main Street South is we're going to be working on collecting of environmental subsurface samples of the scrap piles when available, and that's going to determine what the level of cleanup efforts are required on this project.
Aaron? So yeah, so there's a lot going on in Derby, and it's all within like a 5-minute walk from here. So I think we could probably end the meeting and I'll go for a walk, and I'm gonna suggest we sort of go up Route 34 to the Derby Shelton Bridge, and then if we have time, we can go along the trail to the fishing pier. If that sounds good.
There's some donuts, there's.
And take some donuts.
That's after the walk.
You need, I think.
Walking down.
Officially.
Yeah, so we need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
All opposed?
Thank you.